I write to you today with an heavy heart and a full chest. Heavy because the country has lost one of its most restless voice of change, and full because I remember the good things you did for the common humanity. The air across the nation feels still, the streets are quieter, and in the silence, Kenyans whisper your name with both sorrow and gratitude. You are many things to people: the son of Kenya's political struggles, a fearless campaigner for justice, and for millions of ordinary Kenyans, a symbol of hope. You stood firm in the heat of our politics when walking away would have been easier. You faced detention, exile, and betrayal, yet your spirit never bent. You carried wounds from battles fought not for self, but for the idea of a freer Kenya. You paid the price in full: years of imprisonment, isolation, and humiliation. Still, each time the nation trembles, you stood up again. Your name became a constant echo in the country's long journey towards democracy. You fought when hope was fragile, when the system was rigid, and when speaking truth was dangerous. Yet you never stopped believing that Kenya could be better. I'm writing not to turn you into an icon without fault, for history will judge that fully. I write to thank the part of you that stood shoulder to shoulder with the common Mwananchi. You were central to opening this country from one party rule to multi party democracy, giving space for voice once silent. You forced Kenya to listen, to change, and to choose its leaders through the ballot, not fear. You pushed and pushed until the idea of the new constitution became not just a dream but a living law. The 2010 constitution carries your fingerprints, a promise of rights, fairness, and accountability. It gave a power back to the people, created counties where development could reach the villages, and reminded Kenyans that freedom is not a favor but a right earned through struggles. For that alone, you left us something lasting, a framework strong enough to guide generations beyond you. Through the turbulence and the tears, you planted seed of justice that continues to grow. You made the idea of citizens' power something we could name, touch, and defend. You also carry the burdens of leadership in the darkness hours when Kenya burned after 2007 2008 post election violence. You stepped forward into the storm. You accepted unity even when it meant swallowing your pride because the country needed peace more than politics. You calm a pleading nation and helped stop a civil war before it consumed us all. Millions breathed easier because you took that step. You showed that leadership is not always about winning. Sometimes it is about choosing peace over power. You steadily shaken Kenya when few could. In fact, that act you taught us that courage is not loud, it is steady, calm, and often costly. What many of us will remember most is how you made politics feel like it belonged to the people again. You walked through the dusty street, shook hands in crowded markets, and listened under trees in small villages. You also made every person feel seen in Kibera, Kisumu, Garissa, and across Kenya. People saw in you someone who could speak when they could not speak. You spoke the language of fairness. You carried the grievances of the jobless youth, the struggling mother, the forgiven farmer. You named the pain that many were too afraid to speak of. You made the rich and powerful uncomfortable because you reminded them that Kenya belonged to all, not a few. You inspired the young to rise. not in violence, but in courage. You made activism an act of patriotism. You gave a meaning to stand up, and even when standing came with risk, you reminded a generation that freedom was not inherited, it was fought for. You made many believe again that politics could be noble. Baba, we are grieving, but we are also grateful. Grateful that a man tied his own bones never gave up. Grateful that your long and wielding struggles gave birth to freedoms we now take for granted. Grateful that though decades of disappointment, you never once told Kenyans to stop believing in change. The nation will debate your compromises, and it should because democracy must remain honest. Yet, even in those debates, there is respect because deep down, everyone knows you gave your life to the dream of a better Kenya. You fought government, faced prison, and endure betrayal, yet you never turned bitter. You chose to build, not to destroy. On behalf of millions who never met you, I say thank you. Thank you for the courage to question. Thank you for showing that love of a country can outlive defeat. Thank you for reminding us that struggle is not shameful and that hope is stronger than fear. Thank you, Baba, for being the voice that would not be silent. May you rest peacefully, Baba. May your fight not be forgotten. In villages and towns, your memory now lives in murals, in songs, in whispers between generations. You gave us a Kenya that can urge freely, speak boldly, and vote without trembling. That freedom is your legacy. May the work of your help start being carried forward by people now wiser in the lessons you taught. May the young see your story and learn that power belongs to the people, that no nation grows without sacrifice, that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to walk through it for the sake of others. For the young ones who now double or doubt between fight for justice matters. Your life answers that question. You showed that a voice, even one man's voice, can shake a nation awake. You showed that persistence can bend the act of history, no matter how slowly. As a country, we mourn. As a people, we remember. As citizens, we promise, however impactful, to keep alive the freedoms you helped secure. We will speak when it's easy to stay silent. We will demand fairness even when it feels out of reach because you taught us that silence is not peace. Your story will be told in schools, sung in rallies, and written in history books. Children not yet born will learn of a man who refused to bow to fear. They will know that Kenya's democracy was not gifted, it was built one step, one voice, one sacrifice at a time. Rest in power, Baba. Rest knowing that your people will not forget. From the valleys of Nyanza to the streets of Nairobi, your name now sits among those who carried this nation on their shoulders. You lived for the dream of justice, and in your passing, that dream lived on us, yours in sorrow and hope.